Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. Welcome to this new conference about lecture style by Onion News. We have been sponsored by Ministry of Education. You will be hearing from our speakers today, including me. Firstly, I would like to say I'm truly pleasure to welcome our guests, dear reporters and journalists. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce our first speaker, myself. I'm Professor Dr. Hanis Sofiah binti Abdul Jabar, lecturer in quantity surveying from UiTM Seri Iskandar. And then the second speaker is Dr. Hamizah binti Awang Ngah, lecturer in physiology from International Islamic University, Malaysia. She also worked as a counselor in her university and also has been known as Islamic lecturer style. And then our third speaker is Dr. Nur Aisyah binti Noor Azman, lecturer in health science from University Science Malaysia. She has been known as a strict lecturer style by her student. And our last fourth speaker is Professor Dr. Haji Amir Idham bin Zainal Murad. He is a lecturer in mechanical engineering from University Technology Petronas. He is formerly known as a cool and stylo lecturer and also friendly by his student. Okay, let's begin our press conference. Firstly, I would like to explain the introduction of our press conference today. Our topic is about lecture style. As we know, style is the first thing that we will look to identify what are the characteristics or personality of that person. Or we can say that the first impression that we will look for the person. Style may include on our behavior, knowledge, how we walk and speak. Based on Grasha and Hicks 2000, they believe that teaching style need to be considered as an important element in a lesson. The more students prefer to have a good lecturer, it can increase their performance in education. So, on 27 March 2018, we have decided to do a research on the lecturer style students prefer. So next, I will give to Dr. Hamizah to explain about the objective of our research.
Okay, thank you to Professor Dr. Hanis. Now I will explain about the objective of this research. From this research, we have come out with 4 objectives. The first objective that we want to study is what the relationship between lecturer style with student academic performance. The second objective that we want to study is what make lecturer style can improve the academic performance of student. The third objective is what type of lecturer style that student prefer, and the last one is why student prefer some style of lecturers.
Okay, next is for the scope and methodology.
A sample of 60 undergraduate students from UiTM Sri Iskandar Perak was used for the study. Only students in quantity surveying and architecture degree students were selected. The duration to collect the data is within 2 weeks, which is from 28 March 2018 to 10 April 2018 from 8 a.m. until 5 p.m. The questionnaire has been distributed to the students.
Okay, I will explain about the data collected. For our research, we have distributed 60 copies of questionnaire to quantity surveying architecture degree student in UiTM Sri Iskandar, which is consists 36 questions. We have separated 3 sections, which is section A, section B, and section C. For section A, we have 5 questions. For section B, we have 9 questions. And for section C, we have 22 questions. In section A, it's all about personal information. From the data that we had been collected, mostly our respondents are male, which is 40 students from 60 respondents are male. In section B, it's all about general question. Mostly students prefer Islamic style for female lecturer and uncle style for male lecturer. Students also prefer lecturer that have a friendly characteristic and no one vote for strict character. Students also prefer young lecturer than old lecturer. In section C, where the question is to scale to measure style, mostly students strongly agree if their lecturer interact with students while teaching, then only stand in front of the class. Students also very strongly agree if their lecturer have sense of humor, character while teaching, and no one vote for very strongly disagree. But some students also agree if their lecturer serious while teaching but become friendly after class. Students also mostly agree if their lecturer know their family background.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Amir. And now we are open for the Q&A session. If any question from the floor.
Hello and hi. I'm Aline from Fairy Tale News. Okay, this question I'm dedicated to Dr. Hamizah. Okay, Dr. Hamizah, I want to ask you a question, please. As we know, you have been known as Ustazah by your students with your personality as Islamic. Some students may have negative thinking towards you. So, what's your opinion? Okay, please, thank you.
Thank you for your question. First of all, thank you for coming to our press conference. As you know, I was known as Ustazah by my student because of my Islamic image that I carry. Based on the data from our research show that most of students in UiTM Sri Iskandar Perak, especially the degree student in quantity surveying and architecture, prefer Islamic lecturer. One of the reasons they choose Islamic lecturer is most of student here is Muslim student. Besides that, Islamic lecturer actually easy to approach and communicate to their student, so it can avoid the negative thinking toward their lecturers. According to Didi Iskandar, the process of teaching or learning in university level cannot be separate from religion. So university lecturer should be play a prominent role in the teaching process. So I think there is no problem with the Islamic image that I carry because style actually is important to attract students to learn with their lecturer. Thank you.
I'm Sophia from The Star. I want to ask a question to Dr. Nur Aisyah, please. From your research, do you think that students prefer to have strict lecturer during lesson? And from your experience, What are the effects on students when you adopt strict teaching style during lesson? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Miss, for your questions. From our research, we found out that not a single student would like the strict lecturer. Equal except for me, as I'm a strict lecturer and no one who liked me. I have been teaching for many years, and from my experience, I can see that the students' performance increase year by year from a strict lecture. Students become more motivated from this strict lecture style because they become more focused in class. As discussed by Tubabal and Kasey 2011, the primary purpose of teaching at any level of education is to bring a fundamental change in the learner. Mostly students like attractive and charming lecturer. They did not know. Other than that, the important things that should have on a lecturer is ability to interpret the data, and in the same time they're able to help the students on how to process the information, solve problems, and ability to carry out the tasks that have been given to them. I hope we answer your questions. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Samira. People call me Samira. I'm from Daily News. I want to ask a question, please, to Prof. Dr. Hanis. From your research, what are category of lecture students prefer? Is it old or young lecturer, and why? Why? Thank you.
Yes, please, thank you. From our research, most of students prefer to have a young lecturer. I believe this happened because of young lecturers have a small gaps between their age with students. So, the small gaps makes them easy to communicate with each others. As well as young lecturer also easy to understand what students prefer because of they may have a similar interest, such as love to play games. I know because I'm also a young lecturer. Okay. So, because of it, the relationship between lecturer and student becomes strong. And besides, young generation and old generation have a different opinions. Some of old generation are more strict in teaching rather than young generation. So, student may have become scared because of strict lecture. So sorry, Dr. Aisyah. And so from our research, so we believe that students prefer to have a lecturer that can easy to communicate, or we can say they are very friendly. So they will listen and respect to the lecturer that they impress and they prefer. That's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, I'm Sharira from the News Street Time. Dear Dr. Amir, I want to ask you a question, please. Don't you think that friendly style will make students lose their respect toward you and as a lecturer? Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your question. Of course, I choose friendly style. That is the reason why I apply this style in mine. It makes me easy to communicate with my lecturer while I was in study before. I give you an example. Sometimes you want to ask your lecturer a question during lesson, right? But you're scared to ask because you're afraid that your question will sound dumb to your lecturer. At the end of lesson, you just skip your question without asking and you will never get your answer. And at last, you will ask your friends where your friends also don't know the answer. I think this situation always been facing by students. But if your lecturer are friendly, it will make you feel more confident to ask a question. Based on study by Isabel Canadas Osiski and Miquel Hernandez, titled Study of the Qualities of a Good University Lecturer of Health Science. Closeness to student is the most desirable quality in a teacher or lecturer that students want, where closeness stands out as the most important quality. It means that the most important quality that all lecturers need to have are closeness to students, which means friendly with them. And from that, it will make lesson time become more interesting and interaction between lecturer and student will keep going. I hope that will answer your question. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Siti from Harian Metro. I want to ask to Dr. Nur Aisyah. As we know, you are very strict to students. So, what are the reasons that you choose to become a strict lecturer? Thank you.
Thanks for the questions. The reason that I chose to become a strict lecturer because I want to train and teach them to become a person that who can keep their words, time, more disciplined, can work under pressure and also become a responsible person. Mentioned by Nasiti Fitria 2012, the positive impact of being a strict lecturer, a well-organized class, motivated students, and maximum teacher respect. I really hope that they can adapt with their lecturer's teaching style and in the same time can improve their academic performance. Participation from students in class also important to make sure all the students pay attention in class. Besides that, I want to recommend and advise to other lecturers outside there, be a strict lecturer. Just in the class, not outside the class. It will make sure that your students do not scare with you and also can strengthen your relationship between lecturer and students. That's all. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mariana from Sina Harian. Prof. Dr. Hanis, I want to ask you a question, please. Do you prefer to use new technology such as online teaching during lesson?
Thank you for your question. Yes, I prefer to use a new technology during lesson. Nowadays, technology is the most important as now we are in the technology era and we want our students to be more expertise in technology. From our research show that most of students agree to have a lecturer prefer to use a technology during lesson. So it is shown that technology can attract students to learn. I will use new technology during lesson to attract them to learn and increase their performance in academic. So that is my style of teaching. That's all. Thank you.
From this press conference, we can conclude that students are prefer Islamic and friendly lecturer based on the research that we have done. We can see the lecturer style can influence the academic performance of the student. Last but not least, thank you for coming to our press conference.
Okay, thank you Dr. Hamizah for the conclusion of our press conference. I think we are gonna bring this to close now. I know we have been on for a quite long time, so reporters, I just want to let you know that if any additional follow-up question need to speak to our speakers, you can call to ANA News office number during office hour from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 05-371-3701. Okay, I'd like to thank you to all of you for joining us today and listening to our new conference sponsored by Ministry of Education. Thank you.